Vagabonds, how the devil are you doing now? Today I've given myself the daunting task of ranking the entire studio LP recorded output by the band Thin Lizzy whilst wearing a Candlemass t-shirt and a hat indoors. Now, I've talked about this before. I did a ranking video before. I did Motorhead. All 23 studio albums ranked from the worst 23 to the best number one. Now, what a ridiculous task that was, and I think I sort of said, well, I'm not doing that again. But I've had a few requests. A lot of requests actually, and one of the requests was Thin Lizzy. Now, what I just wanted to do was just have a look at the records in sort of chronological order, but I was like, oh no, you've got to do something. You've got to rank them, and so I have ranked them from 12 the worst to 1 the best, and I can already feel in my bones there's going to be a few little complaints about me decision, but I'm sticking to it, and let's get to it. Now, I always sort of like to sort of give a few anecdotes, so you know, when I'm doing these sort of little episodes, because I think anecdotes and sort of feelings are much more interesting than sort of facts, which you can sort of find anywhere with the click of a mouse. But I don't really have any sort of interesting anecdotes about Thin Lizzy. I first got into them when I was a kid, about sort of 13. So the first few records that I heard were, well, actually I'm not going to give that away, because it will sort of give a bit of a clue as to the order of me records. So shall we get into it? Let's get into it, shall we? So, without further ado, I bring you Analog Attack's ranking of the 12 Thin Lizzy studio LPs. Now, honestly, Thin Lizzy, I love them. Of course, if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing this. But it's funny, when you sort of start looking closely, a lot of their records, they are sort of quite uneven, aren't they? There's not too many flawless, perfect Thin Lizzy albums. They've always got amazing songs on, we know that, but yeah, it was sort of quite not surprising, because I sort of obviously sort of didn't know it, but it's just one of the things that sort of struck me about when you look at the albums closely. Yeah, there's a little bit of filler on most of them. Anyway, let's get to it, shall we? So, coming in at number 12, the second album, or to give it the technical term, the sophomore LP by Thin Lizzy from 1972, Shades of a Blue, Orphanage, on Decca Records. Now, for me, 1972, such a sort of heavy year for music. There's so many sort of heavy rock classics that came out in 1972, and you sort of listen to this and it's mellow and it's sort of a bit unfocused, it's sort of all over the place. They haven't sort of really found their sound yet. It's got the song Sarah, which is a different Sarah than the one that came later, which is much better in my opinion. Buffalo Girl is an okay song, but really it's sort of a directionless, sort of meandering record. But it does have that. I love the picture on the back. I think this is a really old sort of Decca pressing, isn't it? And of course, it's got the sort of the three-piece of Phil in it, Phil Lynott, Eric Bell, and Brian Downey, the power trio that weren't very powerful yet at that time. But so I put this one at the bottom. I think it is their sort of most directionless, and sort of has the least good songs on it of all their records. So and number 12, Shades of a Blue Orphanage, on Decca Records from 1972. There we go. Then, at number 11, sort of go back, won't we? We'll go to the first LP again on Decca, from 1971. Again, sort of got great picture, especially of Phil. That's a great picture of Phil on the back there, isn't it? Of course, Phil, Brian, and Eric, of course, the trio. It's really mellow record. Look What the Wind Blew In is an okay track, but apart from that, I mean, it's sort of all over the place. Again, it's sort of directionless. It's not really going anywhere. It's not powerful. The songwriting isn't anything too special, but I still think it's a little bit better than Shades of a Blue Orphanage. I like the cover. Is this the original? This is a Japanese pressing on King. Really nice quality pressing, but yeah, it's gonna have to come in at number 11 on Me Thin Lizzy Rundown. Self-titled, 1971 on Decca Records. Okay, number 10, we're still staying with the early years. It's the third LP, isn't it? It's the last LP to feature Eric Bell, and of course we're talking about Vagabonds of the Western World. Great artwork, great cover on this record. Now I think for me this record has the first sort of Thin Lizzy classic on it. Of course, I'm talking about the rocker masterpiece of a song, but one song does not make a great LP, and it's getting there. That's the sort of songwriting is picking up. They're moving in a sort of more a better direction. They're finding the sound a little bit more. But I think, wasn't it around the same time? It's not on the record. It's not on the album, but Whiskey in the Jar came out around the same time as this, didn't it? Which maybe was a bit of an albatross around the neck, so I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm going to put this in at number 10, The Vagabonds of the Western World, 1973, Decca Records. The last album for Eric Bell and the last album on Decca. From then on, they went on to Vertigo, and they stayed with Vertigo, didn't they, until the sort of end of their career. So let's get to the next record, number 9. Now, Brian Robertson come in. I love Brian Robertson. Do you remember my Motorhead video? He sort of plays guitar on my favourite Motorhead record. So I've got Scott Gorham, Brian Robertson, and but you know what? When I sort of, that's the cover, and I was reading something the other day, and sort of about the Panthers on the cover, and apparently it's sort of to do with Black Panthers and sort of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. So it's quite political sort of cover in a way, but this is also a mellow record. They're still not rocking, even though they've got Scott and Brian in the band. It's still not really sort of getting there. Of course, it's got a few classics. It's Only Money, great song. Who did that? The Obsessed did a cover of that, didn't they, on their most recent albums? It's Only Money, it's a good song. Still in Love with You, Banshee, Shalala, great songs. So until this point, this is the album that has sort of the most the solid songs on it, but it's still a little bit light in the loafers. I do sometimes put this record on late at night. It's quite a sort of mellow listen, but it's not what I was expecting when I first bought this record, I have to say. But it is the start of sort of, this is really where things start to get really good with Thin Lizzy. So after this record, this for me is when things really start to get a lot better. Now, number 8? Well, this is a little bit of a difficult decision, I'll be honest with you. Now, when they put this out, it's sort of a quasi concept album, of course. I'm talking about Johnny the Fox. again, it's got some great songs in it, borderline rocky. God, I can't read it. And Massacre, of course, Massacre. Now, apparently, sort of Phil was just sort of recovering from a bout of hepatitis when they were recording this. And apparently, I didn't know this, Phil Collins plays percussion on this record, but apparently someone sort of, nobody could remember what songs he plays on. But you know, Phil Collins, he's a great drummer. I shouldn't sort of mock Phil, but again, so I put this in at number 8. Patchy record, some great songs, bit funky, you know, sort of funky numbers going on with the record. Love the artwork. It's a Japanese pressing there, but for me, it's still not quite getting there, is it? Nevertheless, it is a good record. So if you haven't heard Johnny the Fox, do give it a listen, please do. That's number 8. Now, number 7. Now, this is where things start to get a little bit heavier. Now, if I'm not mistaken, isn't this the British sort of pressing, because it's got slightly different artwork, but this is when things start to get a little bit heavier and sort of a bit more rocking. And of course, it starts off with, for me, one of the best cover versions of all time, Rosalie, Bob Seger song. They've sort of, you know, made that song sort of 100 times better. Suicide, Wild One, Fighting My Way Back, another classic. And but it sort of dips off a little bit on the B side. For My Money, King's Vengeance is a good song. I love them. Again, great. Look at that. Look at that picture of the lads on the back there, looking tough, fighting the start of things more heavy from Thin Lizzy. So I put that in at number 7. Next, number 6. Now, Brian Robertson, he sort of was fighting, wasn't he? Quite literally fighting, and he sort of injured his hand, and I think they couldn't go on tour. So as punishment, they didn't put his picture on the cover. What about that, hey? Now, I've read that sort of it's a bit hypocritical, because sort of Phil often was a bit naughty, wasn't he? And they couldn't do gigs and stuff, and they sort of punished Robbo a little bit sort of too heavily for sort of fighting. There's a story about that fight. You can sort of look it up on the internet. But again, it is a patchy record. It's not perfect. It's got a lot of filler. What are the good songs? And Dancing in the Moonlight, it's a good song, but it's got the saxophone solo and it's a bit poppy. And yeah, Soldier of Fortune, bad Reputation, and Opium Trail, a couple of classics, but it's still not a sort of flawless record, sort of in my mind. It's I do find myself sort of wanting to lift the needle sort of now and again when I put this on. I love the sort of artwork. The jacket on this is sort of a bit punky, sort of really minimalist, black and white. Great picture, and of course great title, Bad Reputation, from 1977. Punk here, wasn't it? But yeah, look at that, great jacket, Bad Reputation. Now, next, coming in at number 5, getting to the top 5 now, aren't we? I think this is where it gets really tricky for me to sort of rank them, so let's not take it too seriously. Number 5, yes, sorry, I put this in at number 5. Of course, I'm talking about Jailbreak. I mean, Jailbreak, Running Back, The Boys Are Back in Town, Cowboy Song, Emerald. I mean, there's a fistful of classics right there, isn't there? But unfortunately, there's also Angel from the Coast and Romeo and The Lonely Girl on it as well. So that sort of brings it down a couple of notches for me. Brian Robertson on the guitars, Again, Brian Downey, Scott Gorham, of course, filled in it. And I like the artwork on this, but again, a little bit of filler on Jailbreak, despite the amazing title track. So I put it in at number 5. Top 4, again, excited. You can probably already guess what's in the top 4, but you might be a bit disappointed to see what I put at number 4, because I am going to do this. I'm going to put in Black Rose at number 4. Now I think this is definitely the first record which is almost flawless. It's almost perfect, but for me, S&M, that's why it's in at number 4. I blame S&M for it being not number 3, number 2, number 4, because I think that's a bit of a weak song. But of course, Gary Moore, he played on this record, didn't he? So Robbo was out, Gary Moore was in. But look, I mean, you know the sort of the track listing. Do Anything You Want to Do, classic. Toughest Street in Town, S&M. Waiting for an Alibi, Sarah, the good Sarah, not the old Sarah that they had in the early days. Gotta Give It Up, oh, brilliant. Get Out of Here, another rocker, With Love, and of course Black Rose, the title track. So it's a masterpiece really, isn't it? But S&M brings it down that sort of notch for me. So top 3, and number 3, the heaviest record, Thunder and Lightning, 1983, of course, Mr. John Sykes, the Axeman from the Tigers of Pantang, brought in to sort of heavy things up, and this is a ripping, raging heavy metal record. Look, I mean, even the artwork, it's sort of like heavy metal. It's a heavy metal record, and I'm gonna have to say this is flawless. I like every song on this record. Title track, this is the one. The Sun Goes Down, Holy War, Cold Sweat, sort of raging single. Someday She's Gonna Hit Back, Baby Please Don't Go. That song always sort of gets to me, that one. And then Bad Habits and Heart Attack, another one of those songs that sort of really, it's sort of it's an emotional song, isn't it? Sort of gets to me. Obviously, Phil wasn't sort of too well at that point. There's a lot of sort of cries for help, isn't there, on the last sort of couple of records. But masterpiece, and Thin Lizzy's heaviest record. I put that in number 3 because I love heavy metal. So Thin Lizzy sort of beefing things up is a sort of delight for me. Great record from 1983. Top 2. Now, honestly, these could be sort of interchangeable. Now, at the beginning, I sort of gave a little clue about sort of when I first started listening to Thin Lizzy, and really it was these two. So it does make a difference, doesn't it? Sometimes, sort of your point of entry for a band, and certain records might mean something to you because of like where you were listening to them a lot at the time, and this, that, and the other. But number 2. Actually, my number 2 and my number 1 are sort of records that they are a bit sort of maligned. I don't know why. For me, this Renegade is an absolute masterpiece, and I put it in number 2, but it is the Thin Lizzy record that I play the most, even though it is varied. It's got sort of Fats on it and Mexican Girl, but just the Angel of Death, going into Renegade, The Pressure Will Blow, Leave This Town, sort of A-side is flawless. Then Hollywood, another one of those sort of anthemic songs, and then No One Told Him, dark lyrics, Fats, Mexican Blood, and It's Getting Dangerous, again, one of those sort of emotional songs that really sort of hits home, doesn't it? Great lyrics, and Phil's voice is sort of really, it is a bit sort of shot to pieces, but it doesn't matter. I think it sort of makes the record better in a way. So this is my pick for number 2, Renegade from 1981 on Vertigo, of course. Absolute masterpiece, flawless record, and as is the one I've chosen as my number one, because this one and Renegade are definitely the two records that I play the most. Again, it is flawless, isn't it? Didn't I is the only sort of ballad on it, but apart from that, starts off We Will Be Strong, Anthem, Chinatown, Sweetheart, Sugar Blues, Killer on the Loose, bit of a controversial single, wasn't it, at the time, and Genocide, The Killing of the Buffalo, and then Hey You. Hey You's an interesting song. They definitely had a sort of bit of a police influence going on in the intro there, didn't they? Sort of slightly reggae-ish intro, but it doesn't matter. And the artwork's great. Snowy White plays guitar. People sort of criticise Snowy White. I think his playing on this is absolutely fantastic. I think for me, it's just a really sort of enjoyable record. It's sort of really listenable. All the songs are sort of really catchy. I like the production on it, and I know it's a sort of a bit of a sort of maligned record by Thin Lizzy, and people are sort of probably thinking, why has he put that at number one? But for me, I love it. Chinatown and Renegade are my top two. See, ranking, it's not an easy business, isn't it? Is it? And I'm sort of looking at that now, and I'm thinking, oh, I probably should have changed that and this, that, and the other. But doesn't matter. That we love Thin Lizzy, don't we? They're a really important band. We miss Phil. We sort of wish he was still alive, because one of the best frontmen of all time, right? No doubt about that. And their records do have brought me a lot of joy, and they still do bring me a lot of joy. And I do play them a lot. I really do. That's sort of quite a feat, really, isn't it? Because they're old. I mean, 70s, early 80s, and but they still bring me a lot of joy. So thanks, Phil. Thanks, Thin Lizzy, for all the great music. And let's not take the ranking too seriously. So until next time, stay healthy and stay clean.